If you want, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be my June wrap-up, aka I'm going to be reviewing all of the books that I finished during the month of June. I have finished 9 and I am in the middle of too many, so let's just talk about them. I am just going to go in order that I finished them. So at the beginning of the month, I finished quite a few in a row because I had started them in the month of May. It feels like so long ago, but I finished The Fate of the Tierling, which is the last book in a trilogy. Yay me. This is an adult fantasy series, although I feel like the second book brings different genre that I didn't expect. And I was really reluctant to read the last book because I felt like everyone was saying that the ending was not great or people were very divided, and I actually liked it. I understand why people didn't, but I personally think that it suits the story, and I feel like this would be like an exception to the rule for me. Like sometimes some tropes just don't work for you, but in this case, it works. I can let you know in the comment section. It would be a huge spoiler, so I'm not going to include it in here, but I personally really enjoyed it. Like I said, I feel like it's just a lot more unique, and I do think it deserves more hype. I feel like I used to see it going around, not so much lately, but I thought it was great. And again, finished the series, definitely one of my big goals this year, so I'm giving it 4 stars. The only things that I didn't enjoy in the last book are there's a sex scene, which, you know what? I don't think this is a spoiler, especially if I'm not telling you who is having the sex. But it was just really bad. It's one scene, okay? It's really not that big of a deal, but it's just that this character has sex for the first time while standing up, her back against a tree, skin rubbing, you know, on the bark. And she has not only one O, but 3. Like, come on. I get that it's fantasy, but like, come on. But yeah, it just plays a really tiny part in the story. But it's just, you know, you get to those scenes and it just takes you out of the story and you're like, was that necessary? 3? Anyway, small little complaints like that. Also, there's the fact that there are some French words that are in there, but they're not used properly. Essentially, if a word is feminine, every word that is like attached to it has to also be feminine, and she wasn't doing that. So like, it's a small thing, but if it's your first language or a language you know, it's just annoying. So the kittens have entered the room. So if you see chaos in the background, yeah. The second book I finished was an audiobook called The Rise and Reign of Mammals, which I was looking forward to trying another book by the author because I read The Rise and Reign of the Dinosaur or something. The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, of course. So I was excited to try another nonfiction by him, and frankly, don't do it. It was very slow paced, very forgettable. The only reason I finished it was because it was an audiobook. Yeah, I will never mention this book again, so. The next book I finished was Beware of Chicken. It took me a while to finish it, but I ended up enjoying this a lot more than I expected. This is a cozy fantasy. It's an adult fantasy, and it's a farming book. Of course, Clawdia bringing the chaos. You're following this man who is from our world that is sent into a different version of it where magic is a thing. He wakes up in the body of a monk and he kind of just runs away to become a farmer, live his life, very day-to-day life, and he's forming a community. He starts wanting to be like an hermit and then ends up creating a little community. It's very cute and cozy. I'm not sure I'm going to be continuing just because there's no like big grip for me, but I really enjoyed it for what it was, and if that's your thing, if you want to read more cozy fantasy, would recommend it. You're seriously going... I'm going to lock you out if you keep going. She's purring again. You're too evil. Rating-wise, I don't know if I'm going to round it up to 4 stars. Overall, it was enjoyable for what it was. I do think that a lot of people will enjoy it if you are looking for more cozy, kind of, you know, not boring, but like not much happens, character-driven stories. But the humor was a little juvenile at times, so not really 100% my thing, but I'm glad I read it. The next one I picked up, finally, is Good Morning Midnight. I don't even know how many years this was on my shelf, but I have been going back to reading post-apocalyptic books and really enjoying them. And this one is more like cozy, character-driven. You're following 2 point of views of people that are really isolated during a big event. We don't know if it's a pandemic or anything, but one point of view you're following is this man who has been a scientist. He's an astronomer and he's isolated in the Arctic. Whenever something happens, the army shows up, they're telling everyone this is your last chance to escape, otherwise you're gonna be stuck there. He decides to stay behind and he doesn't know what happened, but he realizes that he's not alone. There's a young girl who doesn't really talk that is left behind too, and it's kind of their daily life trying to survive, striking friendship maybe. And the second point of view you're following is a team that was in space when things happened. They have no idea what happened, and nothing that they can think of really makes sense, and they're coming back towards Earth. Will they survive? Will they not? You don't really know until the end, so I'm not going to spoil it. And I feel like there's a little bit of a touch of magical realism, which is usually not my thing, but I feel like it once again really works with this concept. So I overall enjoyed it. I don't know how to rate this. It's probably a 3.5 stars. I don't know if I'm going to round it up or down, but this was enjoyable. Not my all-time favorite post-apocalyptic book, but definitely a unique take on it. Then I had a cozy weekend-ish trying to read some recent releases, mystery thrillers. I'm trying to find favorites, and it's been going okay. The first one is The Only Survivors by Megan Miranda. I have read a lot of her books. They tend to be like a pretty solid 3.5 stars in general. This one is actually 4 stars, which I looked at Goodreads and I think it might be unpopular, but I enjoy this one. You're following a group of friends. They went to high school together. There was a big accident. 2 cars ended up going into the river, and only some of them made it out. And there are secrets that were kept, and it's coming back to haunt them 10 years later. People are basically dying. Are they actually unaliving themselves? Is there someone going after them? You don't really know until the end. And yeah, you get the cozy vibes of a small town. I don't know why, okay? Murder mysteries in small towns give me cozy vibes. I'm not questioning it. I've just embraced that fact and I enjoyed it. You get it here. You can see from the cover. It's a little bit of a beach town. They end up at one point being isolated by a storm. So yeah, I enjoyed it. The ending wasn't like mind-blowing or anything, but for me this was a good, cozy weekend read. 4 stars, I said that, but yes. The second one is probably the one between the two I was the most excited for, and it is The Whispers by Ashley O'Drain, which she is the writer of The Push, which I read 2 years ago when it came out, and I was blown away by it. I felt like she really nailed the whole, like, is her daughter possessed, evil, or is the mom slowly losing it? And I really enjoyed the way she handled the whole topic. So I was excited for this one, even though it sounded a bit more family drama than like murder mystery. In this small neighborhood, there's a son that is found that, you know, he has fallen from a window. And a couple months prior, there was a big scandal because the window was left open while his mother was yelling at him. Everyone was, you know, having a little party in the backyard. So everyone knew things were not perfect. So is she responsible? What happened? You're kind of following that story while you learn about the secrets of everyone on that street. And I think the people that enjoy this, like the family drama, will really enjoy how raw and intense this one is. I feel like it was a bit too dark family drama for me. I feel like it's not really my thing. It was kind of depressing. If you like to hear about like the dark side of motherhood, I think you're going to enjoy this, but it's just really not my cup of tea. I was taking the risk. I knew what I was getting into, but I don't think I will be reading more of those. Just in general, they don't really work for me. My edition, by the way, is from Indigo. This is their exclusive one. It's green. The other one is orange. This one was prettier, so I ended up grabbing that one. I think I'm gonna regift this to a friend who might enjoy it more than me. So personally, I think I'm gonna give it 2.5. I think it's a great book. I just don't think it was for me. Next, I finish Agnes Gray by Anne Bronte. I'm trying to read from all the sisters, and I read The Tenant of Wildfell Hall last year by her and really loved it. I thought this made her my favorite sister. But I believe this is the only second book that she wrote. I need to double check, but I really loved the other one, so I was really excited to read this, and it was okay. I feel like it was kind of forgettable. You have this young girl whose family does not have a lot of money, so she ends up becoming a governess, and you kind of get the drama of like the families, like they come recommended, and turns out everyone is kind of just intense, from kids torturing animals to just a lot of pity drama and her not having obviously any power because she's the governess. And you get a little bit of a romance, and frankly, it just felt kind of weak. I wanted more. I found the main female character was kind of judgy, which probably on purpose, and she wasn't wrong necessarily, but I ended up being more interested in watching some of the young girls she was taking care of that had no intention of wanting to get married. and they just wanted to live their life. And it's interesting to see that even back in the day, you know, that was something that they wanted to do and just couldn't. But yeah, overall, kind of meh. I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. It was okay, just not my favorite classic. Then for my Read It or Unhaul It challenge, I ended up picking the Stardust Teeth, which I kind of forgot that was on my shelf. This was from the Book of the Month box, and from last year, actually, from June of 2022, so it took me a year to get around to reading it. And because I had zero expectation, I ended up enjoying this quite a bit. My only complaint is that this is an adult fantasy and it felt like a YA one, and I hate whenever female authors' adult books are categorized as YA wrongly, but I feel like this one had vibe, mainly because it uses tropes that are really common in YA books that I'm not a fan of. I don't know how much of a spoiler it would be, so I'm going to keep it vague, but essentially sometimes with magic, things feel a bit too easy. And like the stakes should be high, but they're not. You're not really afraid for anyone. So that's my main complaint, but I overall enjoy the magic system, the world. I'm curious to learn more, and I'm actually excited to continue. Book 2 is coming out later this year, so I will be eventually picking it up. Like, I'm not dying to see how it's going to end, but I'm curious to see if one of the things that I'm hoping is not going to happen will happen. And this one also, the magic is based with Jinn, so if that's your thing, you might enjoy this one too. So I'm giving it 4 stars. The next book I finished was The Apollo Murders, which I was looking forward to reading because I've been trying to read more sci-fi, going back to my roots. And this one, I was told that it was someone that is the enemy in a spaceship. So like people are being murdered and it's like, it has to be one of them kind of thing. And yeah, but I feel that's kind of a stretch. This ended up being too military, too like US versus Russia, pew pew spies for me. I would say this is probably like a dad recommendation. Like there are some dad recommendations that I've loved, like Razorblade Tears or like Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, but this is just not for me. I'm not a military or like spy reader whatsoever. It felt really dated. That this was published in 2021 was a shock because you would have told me that this was published in the 90s. I would have believed you. That's how dated the writing felt, like really dry and again, very like military. So not really my thing. I really tried to focus on the space parts because the author is an astronaut, so I feel like these parts were accurate, so that was really interesting, but otherwise none of it really interests me. The romance was ridiculous. Like it's a tiny part, but like it just meh. So yes, I do have a nonfiction book by the author on my shelf that I will be getting around to reading, actually. I mentioned earlier, so it's right here. This is the Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth, so I will be reading that. I'm really excited for it, but I will not be reading more by the author. This is actually a duology. There's a second book coming out later this year. I didn't know, which is probably why I was really disappointed by the ending. I wanted more. I felt like it was kind of a weak ending, but someone mentioned that this is actually part of a series, so that explains it. But yeah, not my thing. Will not be continuing. I gave it 3 stars when I finished it, but the more I think about it, the more I feel like this was too generous because I did not enjoy myself at all. There's no way I would have finished it if it weren't for the book club. So now let's talk about the books that I'm currently reading because I can't be stopped. I start too many books. I'm still reading this. I'm not even going to address it at this point. I'm still reading it. The physical book I'm currently reading is this one. This is The Story of a New Name, which is the second book after My Brilliant Friend, which is an adult historical fiction, literary fiction series following these 2 women. You're following their friendship throughout their life, and it's complex and raw and kind of depressing, and I can't stop. I love it. Definitely a good summer read too. I'm trying to read the whole quartet this summer. We'll see if that happens. But this is the second book, and I am almost halfway through. I'm halfway through. Nice. So I still have a little bit of a way to go, but this is great. Like I said, I can't put it down. It feels very unique compared to what I usually read. So yeah, would recommend. I'm enjoying it. It's definitely a coming of age kind of story. Audiobook, I'm currently listening to How High We Go in the Dark. I'm 47% into it, and what the heck is this book? This is once again a post-apocalyptic book. I have seen it going around. I have had a few comments since I mentioned that I started it that this was one of their favorite books, and I'm so confused with what's going on. It starts with a disease that happens to be preserved in the ice, which is really worrisome, by the way, with climate change. I don't want more pandemics. But yes, this is how it starts. It starts by affecting mainly children, and you're following different point of views with each chapter. Are they linked? Like, what's going on? I'm so confused at this point because I'm halfway through and it keeps bringing new point of views from this man, you know, that his daughter died, one of the first people that found the disease, to the men working in an amusement park, which just unalives children when they're about to die. So, and then there's the pig chapter. I'm very much still focused on the pig chapter. Anyway, so far I'm enjoying it. I think it has touches of like almost magical realism at times. We'll see how that goes, but I'm enjoying it, just very confused. The last audiobook, I got it back. I don't know how I got it back this quickly because it said 5 weeks, but I'm also in the middle of Why Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism and Other Arguments of for Economic Independence. It's basically the author exploring the intersection between feminism and socialism, and it was so far interesting. She has spent her whole life doing research about this topic, so it's very intriguing. I will let you know how I feel about it once I'm done, but I've been trying to read more nonfiction, so this one is quite short also, so yeah, I'll keep you updated. So as you can see, the month of June was not amazing. I didn't find any 5 stars, to be honest. This year has been rough. But I'm also not enjoying myself. I feel like none of these were 1 stars. So there's that. Kind of a mediocre month though, but we're hoping that a month of July will be more interesting. My next vlog is going to be a read it or unhaul it. I'm also going to be planning my Pile of Shame challenge and my read it and unhaul it. That's going to be. If you have any recommendation for a title, a few people did leave me some. It's essentially me trying to read books that I've been since warned that I will not enjoy them, and I don't like to get rid of books without reading them, so it's going to be like a read it and unhaul it, or a like read it until it pisses me off. A few people also suggested read and rage. But so far I'm leaning towards the like reading the books you told me I was going to hate. I'm gonna formulate this a little shorter, but yes, that's kind of the idea, but I'm open to suggestions. I think that's going to be kind of cathartic, trying to clean up my shelf. That's one of my big goals this year. So yes, that's how things have been going. Not too bad, not too great, but I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the books that I've mentioned, and also I want to know, what are the best books you've read this month? I hope you enjoyed this. Thumbs up, subscribe. I will be putting more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out. And let's end this with this very, very long boy. Look at him, so long. He just had his 2nd appointment at the vet, and he told me that this is a huge, huge kitty. Huge kitty. I'll see you soon. Bye.